This is DW News live from Berlin. A deadly train crash in northern India kills at least 90 people, but the toll is likely to rise. The accident happened in the early hours of Sunday morning when many passengers were asleep. Now, some are still trapped in the wreckage, and we'll be speaking to our correspondent in Delhi. Also coming up, will she or won't she? German Chancellor Angela Merkel is expected to announce today if she'll stand for a fourth term as Chancellor. We'll get all the details from our political correspondent. And in the Bundesliga, champions Bayern Munich crashed to their first defeat of the season at the hands of arch-rivals Borussia Dortmund. We have all the action from an intriguing match day 11. I'm Anne O'Donnell. Welcome. We start in India, where at least 90 people have died and many more are injured after a passenger train derailed in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh. The train was travelling between Patna and Indore, where the incident happened in the early hours on Sunday morning. Several carriages were thrown off the track. Volunteers and police are working to rescue passengers trapped in the overturned coaches. It's not immediately clear what caused the derailment. But our correspondent Sonia Falnikar is on that story for us, and she joins us now from the Indian capital, Delhi. Sonia, what is the latest from the accident site? How are emergency services coping at the moment?
Well, the rescue operation is still on. We're seeing footage of, rescue workers using heavy machinery, trying to cut through the twisted metal to pull out trapped passengers. Now, India's National Disaster Response Force is overseeing the rescue efforts, and a team of army personnel and doctors have joined the rescue workers on the ground. Many anxious relatives have gathered at the station in Indore. That's where the train began its journey. Many survivors have been moved to a nearby town so they can leave by trains or buses. And we have to remember that Kanpur, which is about 100 kilometers away from the site, is a major railway junction. Hundreds of trains pass through it every day. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has tweeted, that he's anguished beyond words. The Railways Minister Suresh Prabhu has ordered an investigation into the crash.
So they've ordered an investigation into the crash. Do they have any idea what caused the train to actually derail?
Well, we don't know the exact cause of the accident as yet. Top railway officials are blaming a fault in the tracks. But unfortunately, train accidents are fairly common in India. Much of the railway equipment here is out of date. It dates back to colonial times. Last year in March, we had a similar accident in the same northern state of Uttar Pradesh, which killed nearly 40 people. Now, experts say, decades of neglect, low investment, highly subsidized fares have left the network in shambles. And successive governments really haven't, modernized the network. They've instead used the system to provide cheap transport and jobs. And this lack of investment has really meant, slower services and more accidents.
So an out-of-date network and not enough money coming into it. What is the government actually doing to improve India's poor rail safety record?
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that, revamping the railways is a priority for the government. He wants to spend billions of dollars over the next 5 years on new tracks, on building modern bullet trains and stations. The Railways Minister has promised to make the railways safer, build more lines, increase the speed of journeys. But I think it will be a long time before we really see a tangible improvement in India's vast rail network. It's huge, it's extensive. It's the fourth largest in the world. It carries some 23 million people daily on its congested tracks.
Sonia Falnikar in Delhi, thank you very much for that. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is expected to announce today whether she's going to run for a fourth term in next year's general election. Her party's executive committee meets this afternoon and a statement is expected by this evening. Merkel hasn't yet confirmed whether she'll run again, but many analysts expect her to. Her possible candidacy was a topic of conversation when President Barack Obama visited Berlin earlier this week. Obama praised Merkel and indicated she would get his support if he could vote in Germany. Well, for more on the story now, our political correspondent Fabian von der Mark joins us in studio. Fabian, you have the inside track. The executive committee of the CDU meets later today. What are her party colleagues saying to you?
Well, when you talk to them in the background, there are hardly any doubts that she will announce to run a fourth time. Publicly, almost all leading party figures have also encouraged her to do that. And some of them have even expressed the certainty that she will announce that. And so no big doubts, really.
So she's just letting her inner circle know first, essentially. Now, the CDU's foreign policy specialist, Norbert Röttgen, has already said that Merkel will run for another term. Is there any way that she could back out at this stage?
Well, she could always say enough is enough and democracy is about change. But no, I mean, there's no real scenario for that. And when you have a look at a recent poll, for example, not only those encouragements within her party, but also the voters, those in favor of the Conservatives, 92% would want to see her again as the party leader and the candidate for chancellor. And even without those voters in the whole of Germany, 55% still are in favor of Merkel running for another term. So she has the momentum now to say, everyone wants me to do that, so I will do it.
She's striking while the iron is hot, but how smart is it of her party to choose someone who seems to be tired of her job? At least some observers are claiming that.
Well, it is true that the party doesn't really have an exit strategy for Merkel. Not now, not in 2 years, not in 4 years. There's no real natural successor, for example, that should come after Merkel. So it is for them difficult really to say how can we get out of this, and she is still quite popular. Plus the party would always argue the challenges within the country and internationally are so big at the moment. Internationally, when you look at Trump, Brexit, Ukraine, Syria, so many difficult topics really where she is at the moment capable of dealing with them because she's knowing what it's about. And also nationally, the refugee crisis still not entirely handled, and she has started that. So people also want her to continue working on that until it's done.
There's definitely a rise of populist movements across Europe, and also here in Germany, the political climate has changed a lot. The anti-migrant party, the AfD, has had a lot of success in state elections. Obviously, people are looking for change. Can Merkel actually give them that change? Well, I'm sure that with the announcement today, there will also be a program that the party is talking about today, where there are quite a number of positions that are rather in favor of those people that have voted for AfD lately. But it is true, AfD is a strong concern within Germany, also for the Christian Democratic Party. And it's also true that Merkel is the person that is sort of the symbol of everything that goes wrong in the eyes of the voters of AfD. So for them, Merkel is the perfect figure to mobilize in the next elections. They're looking for stability in any case. Fabian von der Mark, thank you very much for joining us in studio.
Welcome.
French voters are casting ballots in a primary for a centre-right candidate in next year's presidential election. It's the first of 2 rounds of voting to determine the Republican Party's nominee. The front-runners include former President Nicolas Sarkozy, but surveys suggest a tight race between him and 2 other Conservatives. Today's vote is not limited to Republican Party members. The top 2 candidates will face each other in another primary poll next week. US President-elect Donald Trump will meet further potential cabinet appointees at his golf course in New Jersey later today. On Saturday, the US President-elect met one of his fiercest critics, Mitt Romney, who is reportedly being considered for Secretary of State. The 2 men emerged from their meeting after an hour and 20 minutes, with Romney saying they had a far-reaching conversation with regards to the various theatres in the world. In March, Romney said Trump would be a dangerous president. Trump retaliated, calling Romney a choke artist for losing the 2012 election to Barack Obama. Change of gear now and some sports news. And the Bundesliga's 2 biggest clubs went head-to-head on Saturday. Borussia Dortmund and champions Bayern Munich have both had wobbles this season, meaning that those 3 points would feel extra precious for the victor. And it turned out to be an extremely tight encounter.
The Klassiker pulled in a sellout crowd as usual, and the 81,000 fans in Dortmund were treated to a feisty encounter between the 2 highest-scoring attacks in the Bundesliga. The first big chance fell to Dortmund. Mario Götze crossed, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang prodded in the opener after 11 minutes. It was the 12th goal of the campaign for the Gabon striker, a league best. The home side continued to push. Aubameyang set up Andre Schürrle, but the Germany winger shot straight into Manuel Neuer's arms. The game stayed fast-paced, and Bayern upped the pressure. But even this pass from Xabi Alonso seemed uninspired, the champions not displaying their trademark efficiency. After the restart, Munich dominated, but couldn't catch a break. Alonso hitting the crossbar here with an hour gone. Soon afterwards, a blunder from the normally reliable Alonso. Aubameyang streaked towards Neuer, but he was denied by the German keeper. Dortmund come away with a deserved 1-0 win and stay in striking distance of Bayern, who suffer their first loss of the season.
Cologne headed to Mönchengladbach, hoping to profit from the recent woes of their local rivals. It was a typically frenetic Rhine derby, and fans had to stay to the very end to discover the winner.
More than 50,000 spectators were on hand to witness the 85th Rhine derby. Gladbach from the start looked like the stronger team. Cologne's Thomas Kessler blocked an attempt from Mahmoud Daoud. Kessler was the replacement for injured keeper Timo Horn. After a little over 30 minutes, the ball fell to Lars Stindl. Gladbach's captain ended a near 500-minute scoring drought against one of the best defenses in the Bundesliga. After the break, Torgan Hazard had the chance to build on Gladbach's lead, but failed to convert. And after almost an hour, Anthony Modeste scored his 46th Bundesliga goal in his 100th game. The Frenchman was lucky that Gladbach defender Yannick Vestergaard hit the striker with his attempted clearance. The derby stayed exciting until the very end, and in stoppage time there was a winner. Marcel Risser with a dream goal from 30 meters. Cologne now sits fourth on the table. Gladbach's crisis continues. Only 2 points from their last 6 games is clear evidence of that.
Well, also on Saturday, Mainz entertained Freiburg, 2 teams languishing in mid-table. The sizzler of a match ended in a 4-2 win for the home side. Mainz took the lead when Nico Bunkert headed in a Yunus Mali corner in the 15th minute, and soon Mali himself converted a penalty to make it 2-0. In the second half, Freiburg's Vincenzo Grifo closed that gap to 2-1. Stefan Bell took his turn, heading in a Mali corner to restore a 2-goal cushion. Each team added another goal late on. Here's another look at the results on the big day that was at the Bundesliga, with Bayern suffering their very first defeat of the season at the hands of Dortmund. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scored the only goal in that match after 11 minutes. Cologne did their bit to close in on the leaders with a late 2-1 win at Mönchengladbach. Schalke continued their resurgence with another late goal at Wolfsburg. Augsburg and Hertha Berlin drew a blank, while Mainz beat Freiburg 4-2. Ingolstadt secured their first win of the season at Darmstadt, and on Friday, RB Leipzig produced another stunning result with a 3-2 win at Leverkusen. Let's see how that has affected the Bundesliga table after Saturday's results. Bayern Munich missed the chance to return to the top after their painful defeat. Dortmund are now up to third, with promoted RB Leipzig surprisingly leading the pack. Cologne are fourth after their derby win. Hertha sit fifth. Mainz's impressive win pushed them up to 8th. And turning to the bottom half, Freiburg and Gladbach have slipped back, but Schalke are up to 11th after their victory. And no change in the relegation places, despite second bottom Ingolstadt's first win. To golf now, and Frenchman Victor Dubuisson will take a one-shot lead into the final round of the final tournament of the European Tour season later on Sunday. Dubuisson was on fire as he posted a superb 64 on Saturday at the DP World Tour Championship in Dubai. He sits on 13 under par. Henrik Stenson hit some fine shots too and is set to end the year on top of the European Tour Order of Merit. Just a reminder of the top story that we're following for you this hour. A deadly train crash in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh has killed at least 90 people, but the toll is likely to rise. The accident happened in the early hours of Sunday morning when many passengers were asleep. Some are still trapped in the wreckage. That's it from me for now. You are watching DW News in Berlin. We will be back with more news at the top of the hour. And don't forget, you can get more information on our website. That's dw.com.